procession of distinguished academics into the hall signal the commencement of the inaugural lecture. Can we give the distinguished members of the university community a good round of applause? Next to him is the Dean Faculty of Education, Professor Yekini Oguntimehin. He is closely followed. Thank you very much. He is followed by the Dean Faculty of Social Sciences, Professor Ayodele Odunlami. Next to him is the Dean Faculty of Administration and Management Sciences, Professor Muse Solanke. Professor Muse Solanke is the Dean Faculty of Administration and Management Sciences. Thank you very much. It's closely followed by the Acting Provost, College of Engineering and Environmental Studies, Dr. Bashir Odufuwa. Next to him is the Dean Faculty of, the Provost College of Agricultural Sciences, Professor Adewale Onosoya. And of course, the Dean Postgraduate School, Professor Olusegun Adibayo Lawal. Next to him is the Bursar of the University, Mr. Semi Makinde, FCA, but represented by Mr. ADEYEMI. Thank you very much. Please give me a round of applause. Next to him is the acting university librarian, Dr. Mrs. Chuwemimo Ronke Adekumisi, ably represented by Dr. Abiodun Odunewu. And of course, the registrar of this great university, Mr. Femi Ogunwomuju. We currently have the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Administration in absentia, who will join us in due course, and of course, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic, they will join us in due course. Today, we currently have the inaugural lecturer of today, Professor Babatunde Olumuyiwa, ADEYEMI. And of course, the headman of this great university, Professor Ayodeji Agoola. Please, can we give them a round of applause? Thank you very much. Please, let's be seated. Thank you very much. Mr. Vice Chancellor, who is the chairman of today's occasion, other distinguished personality at the high table, may I now invite the registrar and the secretary to council of this great university to please invite the Vice Chancellor of this great university, Professor Ayodeji Agoola, to declare the professorial inaugural lecture open. Mr. Registrar, sir. Please, can we give him a round of applause?
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, once again, on behalf of the Vice Chancellor, I want to welcome you to this 112th Inaugural Lecture to be delivered by Professor Olumuyiwa Babatunde ADEYEMI. May I now invite the Vice Chancellor to please declare this ceremony open. The Vice Chancellor, sir.
The principal officer of the university, provosts, deans, professors here present, other members of Senate, the royal fathers, my great students, other university community here present. On behalf of Senate of this great university, I hereby declare 112th Inaugural Lecture open.
Today's lecture is to be delivered by Professor Olumuyiwa Babatunde ADEYEMI. May I now invite the Vice Chancellor to please introduce this inaugural lecturer. Professor ADEYEMI, please stand and remain standing.
Once again, I have the great honor and privilege granted by the Senate of this university to present to you Professor Olumuyiwa Babatunde ADEYEMI, the inaugural lecturer of today. Professor Olumuyiwa B. ADEYEMI was born on 23rd February 1971 into the royal family of late Pa Owens Olutayo ADEYEMI of Odo Bolu Kingdom. Princess, our praise. the Prince. I'm hearing that for the first time today. Although Ogun local government area of Ogun State, Professor Olumuyiwa Babatunde ADEYEMI is a graduate of Ogun State University AGO-IWOYE, where he bagged Bachelor of Arts in Education in 1995 with second-class honors upper division. He also obtained his master's degree, MN, and Doctor of Philosophy in Education Management from the same university in 1999 and 2007, respectively. Professor ADEYEMI, formerly called Aristotle, began his career as a teacher at Emmanuel College, Igbokolo, Benue State, and a part-time lecturer in Benue State Polytechnic, Igbokolo, in 1995. He relocated to Lagos when he was employed as a project officer at the Child Welfare League of Nigeria, Lagos, in 1996, which he co-formed the campus chapter in 1992. The CWLN was well reputed for the defense of rights of children and collaboration with other human rights organizations such as CDHR, PRAWA, CDD, among others, for the emancipation of the Nigerian society, especially during the 212 democratic struggles. So don't be surprised when President Bola Tinubu invited him to Abuja on this June 12 struggles. Professor ADEYEMI, due to his flair for academics, actually joined the services of OLABISI ONABANJO University, AGO-IWOYE, as a graduate assistant in 1997, and his role through the ranks has become a professor of educational management in 2019. Aside teaching various courses in areas of specialization, Prof has to his credit over 57 publications in peer-reviewed journals, both locally and internationally. 3 textbooks on education and management that prominently focus on universal basic education program. He has also attended several professional conferences, workshops, seminars within and outside the country, where he presented well-researched papers. He has also successfully supervised many undergraduate students' projects with over 60 master dissertations and 25 PhD theses supervised and co-supervised. He is currently the head of the Department Educational Management and Business Studies. He has also served the university meritoriously in various capacities, among which are member Departmental Certificate Screening Committee year 2000, Faculty Representative University Publication Committee 2002 to 2003, member Faculty Education University Master Plan 2000 to 2005, course advisor year 5 Sandwich Program 2001 to 2006, Faculty Representative, Faculty of Arts Board 2012 and 2010, Secretary, Faculty Teaching Practice Committee 2002 to 2010, Artists obtained Faculty of Education Postgraduate Program between 2011 to 2012, and Departmental Coordinator Postgraduate Programs 2018-2021, and substantive obtained postgraduate programs Faculty of Education between the year 2018 to 2021. Our inaugural lecturer of today was a visiting senior research fellow at the National Institute of Educational Planning and Administration, while on sabbatical in 2012. The institute is reputed for its collaboration with the World Bank, UNESCO, UNICEF, International Institute for Education Planning, Paris, etc. On universal basic education scheme, where he competed in training and research across the state of Nigeria, he is the convener and co-coordinator leadership advocacy concept Africa. It is also worthy to note that Professor ADEYEMI is a member of several professional bodies, including British International Sociological Association, National Association for Educational Administrators and Planners, Counseling Association of Nigeria, and Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria 2013 to date. Of course, our Aristotle is an activist, unionist. He was honorable member of Ogun State University Student Union Government in 1990 to 1994 through 95 academic sessions, and played a significant role in the struggle for the realization of BA Ed and BSc Ed for students of the Faculty of Education at the then Ogun State University in 1994 through 1995, for which Chief Gani Fayemi Shebas and Comrade Mahmood provided a legal aid. He is the current Secretary, Board of Trustees, OLABISI ONABANJO University Alumni Association. Apart from intellectual aspects, Professor ADEYEMI is a sports person. As a young and talented footballer, he was called to camp as trained for the youth football competition at the National Stadium in Surulere, Lagos State. He's also a community leader, and Professor ADEYEMI has won many awards to his credit. Professor Olumuyiwa Babatunde ADEYEMI is happily married to his amiable wife, Mrs. Tinuola Deborah ADEYEMI. And their union is blessed with children. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Professor Olumuyiwa Babatunde ADEYEMI to deliver 112th Inaugural Lecture of today.
Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Admin, the Registrar and other Principal Officers, Provost and Deans, Provost of the Postgraduate and Colleges, Deans of Faculties and Student Affairs, all heads of departments, all members of Senate, all members of staff, teaching and non-teaching, our royal fathers here present, my Lord spiritual and temporal, friends of the university and special guests, best Nigerian students, greatest OUites, gentlemen and ladies of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, every goodbye is the beginning of the return for a new challenge. Is the story of my sojourn and accomplishment in the academia and occupying a professorial chair. At every resolve to escape my engagement in the world of academics, the more I got entangled and successfully outstanding in it. As a student activist and who is actively involved in student unionism, the last I expected to become was a university teacher. I recall that after my last examination paper, myself and a few of my great and reliable comrades climbed the bonnet of our Luther bus, threw away our biros and shouted, it was all over. no more reading. This was the irony of the life of a young man that was to be deeply consumed by the same system he thought he had escaped from. This is the prologue of my story. In my engagement as an academic for about 2.5 decades, I have immensely contributed to the development of humanity through my researches in core areas of human resource development and institutional administration. The major and critical focus of my research works have concentrated on basic education, and particularly the current universal basic education in all its ramifications. The title of my inaugural lecture, Reversing the Tragedy of Universal Basic Education Implementation in Nigeria, is therefore not a coincidence, but the product of a long-standing research endeavors, and for which I have achieved significant impact and prominence in Nigeria and across the globe. This inaugural lecture is the 112th in the series of inaugural lectures in OLABISI ONABANJO University. And this has provided me the opportunity to present before this esteemed audience my modest contributions to the development of education and humanity in general. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, ladies and gentlemen, please join me as I present in this voyage my story so far.
Pay now.
I never been. Let me say I no go pay. They're gonna push you, but you don't know the frog, but they're gonna push you, Bessie.
Okay, so you wait, but you better not me the flog you. Or be there. Say me you go tell your mommy.
They flog me. Yeah, flog me.
Why they go flog me?
That will be flog. The Kenny go tired. They go tired for flogging. They go flog. They go tired. And they say they stop. I tell they say I stop my father.
What we have observed so far is a depiction of the crisis in Nigerian basic education. Now let us give an analysis of this child that just went out in annoyance. Let us ask these fundamental questions. Number one, how free and compulsory is universal and qualitative basic education in Nigeria? Looking at that child, the child has been denied schooling just because she was unable to do what? To pay. Number two, is Nigeria ready for the provision of this baseline education? The question still remains for us to answer. Will the child not constitute out of school children and dropouts and also affect girl child education? Are Nigerians not creating health measures to basic education? Because that child that you just watched, at the end of the day, she got scholarship up to the university level. Now, the question is this: how many of such children will be able to have such opportunities? Now, how strong are institutions of government and the law? And finally, how unjust is the Nigerian society to the child? My introduction, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir. Basic education is a lifelong type of education. And that is that type of education that you give to an individual for such an individual to be able to comprehend happenings in his society to the extent that he or she will be able to contribute significantly to the development of that same society. Of course, it is learning to learn, continuous education, mass literacy, and adult education. The objectives of basic education in Nigeria. It is to help us develop consciousness for education and strong commitment, to provide compulsory and universal basic education for every Nigerian child, reduce incidences of dropouts, catering through appropriate forms of complementary approaches to promotion of basic education. Furthermore, we have it that it is expected to ensure the acquisition of appropriate learning literacy, numeracy, communicative and life skills, amongst others. Now, basic education to government and by the provisions of the Constitution of Nigeria is expected to be free, universal, qualitative, and also compulsory. However, there is a proviso which states that government shall make it free as at when such is practicable. And this, of course, was stated in the 1999 Constitution, Section 18, subsection 1 and subsection 3. Summary of basic education experience in Nigeria. Now let us look at this, and I know we are all familiar with this. We have the Chief Obafemi Awolowo experience. We have the Chief Obafemi Awolowo experience of 1955 in the Western region. We have that of the Eastern region in 1956 as provided by Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. And we also have the 1976 experience as provided by Chief Olusegun Obasanjo in 1976 under the universal primary education. However, the difference there is that for basic education under the universal primary education, it covers the entire nation, while that of the first two by Awolowo and Azikiwe covered regions. Now, for the historical development of the current universal basic education, please follow me in this history. The universal basic education came about through the 1999 Jomten Conference that took place in Thailand. And the reason for that was because of the convergence of countries where you have high level of illiteracy, you have low per capita income, high level of population amongst others. And the only indices or factor that could help in solving all these problems was identified to be basic education. And as such, there was a marching order for a target year of 2000. And the group of those nations were called the E9 nations. In Nigeria, following from the Jomten Declaration, Nigeria launched the same universal basic education, just as Obasanjo launched it in 1976 under the UPE in Sokoto on the 30th of September 1999, and by the same Olusegun Obasanjo. Nigeria has shown commitment by way of ensuring that it fulfills the focus of basic education as enshrined not only in our policy, not only in our constitution, and equally by the Jomten Declaration. The UBE's components, we have, it spans the first 10 years of schooling, and others include nomadic education, mass literacy, non-formal education. Now, the UBE Act, which of course is an enabling document for the provisions of the universal basic education, is provided. And it talks about the responsibility of state government, local government, implementation by SUBEP, LGAs, the role of the federal government, punishment for parents, including those of us that are here seated today. And you will join me to see whether we have contributed positively or negatively to the development of basic education in Nigeria. Now, part of the highlights of the law is the outlaws of school fees, the issue of tuition fee, the issue of school feeding, the issue of provisions of facilities, federal government intervention, and adequate basic education opportunities for all school-age children. Now, the broad areas of activities. One is about the massive provision of facilities, learning facilities, instructional materials, massive provisions of existing instructional facilities, and also provisions of supervisory and inspectorate personnel. Apart from that, it also goes on aggressive mobilization. This is the sequential implementation plan. The program started in the 1999-2000 session, and they have provided a 10% reduction rate such that they are able to achieve their objectives. And what do? We'll come to that concerning the issue of disarticulation of our schools. Ladies and gentlemen, let us move on to the tragedy. Having espoused what the youth has provided in order to ensure that we have what we call education for all.
Quality education remains a distant stream for many children across the country. Too many are either out of school or receiving inadequate education. The hope for educational reforms reawakened after independence in 1960. In September 1969, a national curriculum conference held in Lagos recommended a 6334 system. The system later transited to 934 in 2006 and 16634 system in 2013. Aside from the inconsistency in the system of education, funding has been a major problem. In the last decade, the education sector has received only 3.9 trillion out of 55 trillion naira of the national budget, representing 7% of the total allocation, a far cry from the 26% recommended by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO. The gap between education policies and implementation for national development has become a growing concern for many. The result, after 58 years of various reforms, development spiraled downwards, culminating into a crisis such that inevitably called for a state of emergency in 2018.
With an estimated 13.2 million children out of school, high illiteracy level, infrastructural deficit and decay, unqualified teachers, and inadequate instructional materials, to mention more of the challenges, we can clearly see the effect of decades of neglect that the education sector has suffered.
In spite of several interventions by government in terms of funding and policy changes, the sector still begs for greater attention, with insurgency, especially in the northeast, and a growing population compounding the setback in the sector. The labor market continues to suffer for this. UN Sustainable Development Goal 4 targets inclusive and equitable quality education, but Nigeria, in its 58th year, appears to be miles away from achieving
The
that.
issue of policy formulation, enactment, and workability can be looked at this from these perspectives. Now look at it. The Jomtien Agreement was signed in 1990. Nigeria did not launch that program until 9 years after. And the target year was year 2000, meaning that Nigeria launched it a year to the end of the target year. These are perspectives. Now, another is that Nigeria started the enrollment issue and the provisions of facilities in the 1999-2000 session, but the act to support its operation was promulgated in 2004. If we calculate 2004, drawing inference from when it was agreed, or when it was signed, you will find out that we have a lifespan of about 14 years before Nigeria could actually get all those frameworks that will make the universal basic education work for it. Now, part of the policy also is that, in terms of implication, it was meant to bring about articulation and disarticulation. Articulation in the sense that the junior secondary becomes a continuation for those who are coming from the kindergarten and the primary. And the senior secondary school stands on its own. But up till today, some schools are yet to disarticulate appropriately. And as such, it has affected not only the articulation, but the issue of integration. Then let us look at workability. Today, children still pay. Example of it is that child that at the end of the day, he had to insist, she had to insist that rather than leave school, she would prefer to be beaten. And that was why she said, I go tell them, say them get strong get pass, I get past them. And the meaning of that is that the child has seen education as her own right, although may not be conscious of the law. But what is expected of the state is to provide that platform for the child to be able to do what she has, shown that tenacity to do. Apart from that, we have a lot of other things that has affected basic education in Nigeria. Now let us look at the issue of funding, spending, and investment. Till today, Nigeria has not been able to meet up to the 26% as required by UNESCO, urging that every budgetary allocation, once you're able to provide up to 26%, that education is allowed to grow such that it will be able to meet its objective of providing basic education for a citizenry. But today, you have Nigeria, between 1989 and 2019, the highest budgetary allocation was 11.53%. And in 2018, we have 7.14%. And in 2019, we had 12%. This speaks volume. And the varying degrees in terms of percentage allocation of states and geopolitical zones also speak volume in terms of how we have badly funded basic education in Nigeria. Now, the issue of spending and investment, we have preferred to put our money into such consumptions for education that will bring returns into our pockets, rather than invest in education such that individuals there will enjoy. Now look at it. Education does not bring immediate gains. It takes a whole number of years to produce a graduate. But in Nigeria today, all of those things that are being put into education are such that it will bring about immediate gratification. And that is why they prefer to spend in those areas rather than investing such that the reward of that system is seen in the product and in the effectiveness and efficiency of the system. And the Universal Basic Education has also asked that 50% of funding for basic education is allowed to be provided by states, while government also provides 50% that will help in a total of 100% provisions of funding for basic education. But what do we have today? Not all the states have the capacity to commit 50% to access the block grants. Some of the states possess lower revenue model. Some of the states did not demonstrate readiness and goodwill to doing that. Some of the states divert and misappropriate the block grants. Ladies and gentlemen, let us move on and you will see part of what I am talking about.
Dilapidated structures, inadequate teachers, and poor sanitation facilities are evidently impeding the learning process. Apizanga Primary School is one of the oldest primary schools in Kefi local government area of the state, established in 1948. Pupils of the primary and nursery sections receive lessons sitting on the floor.
Some of our classes are dilapidated. They need a renovation. Our children, they were sitting on the ground, no seats. So those are some of our problems that we're having. No water. The so-called borehole they did is not functioning.
Teachers are key to achieving all of the SDG 4 targets, but 16 teachers are left to cater for 1,555 pupils here.
There are a lot of challenges in this school, starting by the population of the children with lack of teachers.
At the Model Science Primary School, the story is not different. Pupils also sit on the floor
and the ratio is 36 teachers to 2,000 pupils, with some volunteers and assistants.
Let me share my experience with you just very briefly. I did a study in Ogun State on the universal basic education. I got data of where those facilities were located as given by the federal government, 4 per local government, out for each of the 774 local governments in Nigeria by then Obasanjo regime. You will not believe that on getting to those schools, sir, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I requested to see some of those facilities such that I could assess and look at the state as given to me that they have been completed and under usage. You will not believe it. A particular principal, head teacher told me, I said, madam, where I am here to assess your UBE school, where is the school? He said, and I said, which one? I couldn't see anything. He said, Owuni Foundation. That facility was at the foundation level, while on paper it had been recorded that it had been completed and under use. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I also went to another school where it was said to have been fully completed because a block of classroom will consist of, a block will consist of a classroom, principal's, the head teacher's office, store, and then I think toilet. You will not believe it that the brick composition in terms of laying of bricks was what I met rather than the completion of that block of classroom. And those students were made to occupy it, such as part of what you have seen on the video slide that have been shown. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I want to move on to say that okay, sir. To say that we need to move beyond that level and let us move on to assess our school enrollment and out of school children. It has been observed that net enrollment in UB worsened 10 years of commencement. And the scheme itself shown that there's a percentage of 61.3% in 1999 of out of school children. Up to 2010, we had 57.6. Equally of note is that after initial improvement from 84.2% in terms of enrollment now to 102.66, the gross enrollment rate declined, and we had 83.3% in 2010 as provided by the World Bank. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the issue of enrollment is a big problem. And it has been requested by the UBE Act that parents should be called to questions. At the initial stage, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, once a parent is caught not sending their word to school for basic education, they will be warned. On a second, they will be prosecuted and fined. But up till today, ladies and gentlemen, I have not gotten any evidence of any parent that have such been prosecuted. And as such, you have so many of our children on the streets, hawking, rather than being in school. So it persists, even up to 2018. The issue of out of school continue to soar, and we have not been able to address this matter. Mr. Vice President, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the school facilities and teaching learning atmosphere and the school health management. I want to take you to the issue of the COVID. We rushed to providing series of sanitary facilities for our children so that diseases does not, the issue of COVID in terms of another disease does not affect them. But today, an assessment of those facilities shows that they have been abandoned. How do we have measures and emergency approach to issues rather than ensuring that those children inculcate, imbibe rather, the spirit and the culture of continuous school health management? But today, we do not have that. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, in a study that I conducted, series of other studies like that, shows that on the impact assessment of universal basic education, those variables that we looked at in terms of the school structure, in terms of learning facilities, they have not been adequately provided. Mr. Vice Chancellor, as of 2019, of course it's current, the studies on UBE facilities reveal that nearly all the facilities available in our schools were inadequate. Studies also shows that the schools did not have enough classrooms, teachers, tables, chairs, pupils, staff common room, radio tapes, and amongst them that will enhance their academic activities. Studies also reveal that as 2018-19, there was roughly 513,000 secondary school teachers in Nigeria, in both private and public. However, although Lagos have gotten the highest, but the question is that how well are they trained? Don't we have measures where we talk about providing teachers through certain procedure rather than going through the professional calling and the procedure that will make them to be truly qualified as teachers and provide quality instruction. As of 2022, my Vice Chancellor, sir, statistics provided on teachers' availability in terms of quality and quantity shows that we have a lot on our hands to solve, and this has really affected us. Ladies and gentlemen, please let us look at this.
The crisis of education in Nigeria seems to be a hard nut to crack for key players in the education sector. This is because the same problems keep recurring. One of such is the state of infrastructure in public schools. Gudum Hausawa, the community has only one primary school, established in 2005. The school is far from a normal school setting. The only building in the school is a block of 2 classrooms, where primary 1 and 6 pupils learn sitting on the floor. The other grades learn outside under the trees and often get their classes disrupted at the slightest sign of rainfall. It is not surprising the pupils could only express themselves in the local language.
In je makaranta, in na wanke uniform ina, in na goge, in na je makaranta na zauna a gindin bishiya yana ɓaci. Cinaku kuma suna cizon.
To make matters worse for the pupils, the only access road to the school is obstructed by this pool of dirty water, which the children have to cross on their way to school and back, thereby getting themselves wet and exposed to diseases. The decaying infrastructure is not peculiar to the school in Gudum. At this primary school in Jahun, located in the metropolis, the site of refuse greets you at the entrance. There is decay in infrastructure and pupils sit on the floor. The situation is also similar in Kobe Primary and Secondary School, just a stone's throw from the State Ministry of Education. With all the efforts put in by the state government, the problem still persists, as experts on education advise government to deploy direct labor to once and for all tackle the problems of infrastructure in its schools. No doubt, the deplorable state of infrastructure in many of these schools clearly affects the quality of education of the pupils. This calls for desperate measures and unflinching commitment from the authorities concerned.
As you can see, it is evident that we have a lot on our hands as parents and also as administrators of our schools. And as such, we should be looking at how we will be able to solve these problems. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, my recommendations. One is the 6 model. I have done many studies, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, on the 6 model. And it shows that even universities have a role to play in universal basic education, because the major approach that was adopted by UBE was the collaborative or partnership approach. Now, what am I recommending as the role of our universities? Now, some of our postgraduate students can be used as teachers in adopted schools. So, our university should be looking at adopting some of the schools in their locality, which will enhance school-community relations, such that they are used during their free periods to go to those schools and take subjects where teachers are not available and they are qualified to do the same. Apart from that, sir, in some of our courses, which of course has also been adopted by the CC model in terms of innovation, and that is part of my 6th model, is that we produce some of the materials and we are able to generate some of the items. I'll give an example. In the Faculty of Education, We have the technology unit where students are made to either improvise or produce marker boards and other things. All of these things serve as instructional, could serve as manuals for those schools that we have adopted. And it shows that at the end of the day, we'll be able to create a synergy between such schools that are adopted and the university that's adopting them. And it can go all round the year. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I want to say that the 6th model has actually helped, and I've gotten a letter of recommendation even from the state government during the last regime of the civilian government in Ogun State. Now, the issue of SBMC, that is the School-Based Management Committee, we could strengthen them. We go beyond the issue of PTA and enlarge such body so that they can give back effectively to the schools, to the school system. And our community leaders here have their roles to play. Our KBSCs, they are community leaders. And through that, you could reach out to your subjects who are well-to-do, who are philanthropists, and you can identify those schools based on needs such that they are able to contribute to that community schools at the basic level. There is a need for us to begin to activate our education officers and the formation of neighborhood alert group in charge of monitoring out-of-school children and child labor practices. During the Jakonde regime, they had a similar thing where children were found walking. Children who are supposed to be in school and are not found in school were arrested, so to say. Their parents were also advised to take those words back to school. Why can't we do that? If truly we want basic education to be compulsory. If you want to be compulsory and the law has enabled you to do that, also giving consequences on parents, then once those children are arrested, the parents will have to bear the consequences and those children will have to be in school. By the time we set up just neighborhood watch, they are all around us. They can identify those children and those children will be in school. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, there should be effective working of UB program activities into the UB Act and Policy Framework. And what do I mean, sir? There are consequences even for state governments who have failed to use UB funds appropriately. Let those consequences come to bear on them. And that responsibility behoves on all of us. And we must do it effectively, such that we are able to work adequately those activities of our leaders into what obtains in terms of basic education. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I want to say that having been able to identify all of these things, let me show you one thing that will amuse you about the Nigerian situation.
The federal government has said it would spend 999 million naira daily to feed approximately 10 million pupils in the National Homegrown School Feeding Program across the country. People took to the streets to ask people's opinion on the school feeding program.
How do they spend it? To who? How do we assess who the money got to? That is just the major challenge, because even I remember during this sit-at-home time, we were told that they were spending money on children in school even when they were at home. So I don't think there's any atom of truth in whatever they are doing.
I have so many children. I have two here. They are not feeding them. No, there's no evidence that they are feeding any children in any school. So that money goes to their pocket. That money is huge to feed people. When AGO was there during the fear, AGO was not telling us this is how much I spent on free education, but we see it. I take advantage of AGO's free education. I got free textbooks, free so many. Only what my parents gave me was my school uniform, and everybody saw it. This one they are making noise is a scam. They don't need to tell us that they are spending so much money before we will see that they are feeding people.
9 million on top of a student for this Nigeria, brother and ally. Why go they spend 9 million for students every day? For when they see the money, and people they consider they suffer. Consider they give students 9 million every day for waiting. Nah, lie, I don't believe. na lie dey lie. They don't carry our money, they don't go in town. Make they give. We need better government. Make they give people where people don't get work. Make they give them work. Make they work. They call the lie say they give government now 100 million. They spend 100 million on top of students every day.
Actually not true, because I actually have friends in public school also, and they don't come back telling me. They still tell me they use their money to get things that they want. If they want to get something, they actually have to leave the school premises to get something.
The federal government spent 900 and something million on pupils at schools. I don't believe that. It's a way of trying to siphon Nigeria money. Let them do everything and sit down and strategize on better things that will make Nigeria go forward.
The program didn't touch Lagos State. It did not touch Lagos State. So I cannot say that maybe it's true or it's lie.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, in all my engagements as an academic, I say to God be all the glory. The noble and notable fulfillment I have had has been to the creation of Almighty God, who has consistently guided and guided my paths. I thank the Vice Chancellor, Professor AGO-IWOYE, for the opportunity and the logistics provided to enable me to deliver my inaugural lecture and for making today a reality. I appreciate the entire management team of the university, and particularly the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, Professor C.O. Adekoya, who made the entire conduct of this inaugural lecture to be seamless and interesting. To the chairman and members of the University Council, I say thank you, sirs and ma'ams. My appreciation is also extended to the entire staff of the OLABISI ONABANJO University for the support I received in making this inaugural lecture a success. My gratitude goes to my parents, Omoba and Mrs. ADEYEMI, both of blessed memory, for reshaping my perception about life and providing me the reason to forge ahead in the struggles of life. I owe my gratitude to my grandparents, Omoba Pa Howells, Olutayo Adeyemi, and Mrs. Miriam Idowu Adeyemi, popularly called Mama Elewa, both of blessed memory. Pa-H-O was fondly called, inculcated in me the spirit of resilience, courage, and determination. It was a pillar of support throughout my academic pursuit, always wanting me to be successful. My eternal indebtedness of gratitude goes to Omoba Kiyemi Adeyemi, my father's junior brother, who throughout his lifespan adopted me as his first son. He always wanted me to be successful, and he would ask me to tell him my stories. Even though I may want to lie to take some things, he will want to listen to my stories. He provided whatever I asked for. As a matter of fact, at his place of work then, I was documented as his first son and benefited from all facilities and season gifts provided by that organization. To Akiyemi Adeyemi, I say rest in peace. And to the entire Adeyemi dynasty of the Odogbolu kingdom, both home and abroad, the Bankole family, I say a big thank you. Just I specially recognize Babatunde Ademola Adeyemi and Oluwatoyin Oluwakoni. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I thank my father-in-law, mother-in-law, and Mr. and Mrs. Isaac Olufunsho Ojo for their love and affection towards my children and my entire family. The entire Ojo family has been a pillar of support all the way. I owe my gratitude to the late Dr. Olumuyiwa of blessed memory, the former Attorney General of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and Minister of Justice. The Kabiyesi, the Alaye of Odogbolu, Oba Adedeji Onogoruwa, Kabiyesi o, both of whom have served as major pillars to my academic activities. Kabiyesi, may God provide you with sound health and long life. I thank the late General Ladipo Dia for his admonitions and support for my academic programs and the opportunity to serve in his education initiatives. I cannot but appreciate the following people that are dependable allies. Dr. and Mrs. Wale Oshitoye of the Taye Cholanri University of Education, my brother from the source. Mr. Kola Ademolu Sake, Mr. and Mrs. Tunde Ilusonya, Mr. Kule Adeneye, Mr. Toyin Ogunami, amongst others. To my great comrades of note, Pastor Yemi Adelakun, that I call Psycho Samodi. Please, you may rise up for recognition. Aluta continua. Toshagun Mayegun, I say Aluta continua. Victoria Asata. Professor Bola Oguyemi, Akogun Jamiu Alabi Olododo, Dr. Ni Arikewuyo, Seyi Olubanjo, Femi Nuberu, Femi Osun, Femi Onanuga. Okay? Late Sheson Ajayi, late Wale Shokoya, that I popularly call Skodinga, amongst others. The unalleged support and brotherly relationship extended to me by Mr. Soji Odedino, Dr. Tunji Olugbodi, Mr. Afolabi Sorunke, Baba Oloye, the gentle and renowned giants of the marketing and advertising industry in Nigeria. I am eternally grateful and appreciative, and I say a resounding thank you. My utmost gratitude goes to the chairman and members of the ADEYEMI Aristotle Professorial Chair Endowment Board of Trustees, working for the development of education at the basic level for the less privileged. I thank the Dean, Yekini Abiodun Ogutimehin, the academic and non-academic staff of the Faculty of Education in those departments include STED, that is the Science, Technology, Education, ASED, EFC, HKHE, and the Institute. To members of the Department of Educational Management and Business Studies, including Professor Lasun Gbadamosi, J.O. Oni, Dr. Shubola Catherine Abosede, Dr. M. Dosumu, Dr. Bolaji Buki, Hakim Edun, Tayo Shobowale, Mrs. Aminat, and our departmental secretary, Mrs. Our departmental secretary, among others. I also appreciate the special privilege to work with some of the heads of departments of the faculty. Professor Tola Oduyale, S.A. Oladunjoye, Dr. Opeyemi Shoaga, Janet Adetayo, Ayo Okundare. I appreciate and recognize the positive academic impact of my teachers and mentors. Notable amongst them are Professor Kayode Ajayi, Emilola Susan Ajibade. Till today, I cherish their hard stance on issues and their mentorship. I say to them that make their souls rest in perfect peace. I also appreciate Professor Taiwo Ajayi, who signed my letter of appointment to the university. Others are Professor Kayode Olagunju, Pauline O. Adeshamowo, who supervised my first degree project, Mama Abeke Adesonya, Professor G.B. Eweniyi, Professor Kehinde Alebioshu, my ever gentle and amiable mentor, currently in the United States of America, Professor Lasun Gbadamosi, Professor Jumoke Bilesomi Awoderu, Professor Adejoke V. Jibowo, Professor Tola Oduyale, Professor Okale Sanwo, Professor Olufunmilayo Shotanade, Professor Biodun Ogunyemi, and Professor M.O. Arikewuyo, the Ijebu professor, who was the dean, who, when my promotion was processed to the position of a professor, and the late H.T. Benedict. She was a mother, indeed a dogged achiever. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, permit me to recognize and appreciate the immense contributions of my teacher and mentor, Professor Taiwo Edun. Please, you may rise for recognition. Please let us appreciate him. His academic guidance is worthy of note. As a matter of fact, he took his precious time out to proofread this lecture, even at a time that was highly inconveniencing. Let me specially recognize my dear academic brothers and liberal spiritual pastors, Professor Yekini Abiodun Ogutimehin, the current dean of the Faculty of Education, Professor S.A. Oladunjoye. May you rise up for recognition, sir. The HOD, Department of Arts and Social Science Education. I thank you very much, sirs. I deeply appreciate all the royal fathers. The Olowu of Ayepe, Kábíyèsí o. The Akalako of Ayepe, Kábíyèsí o. The Alaye of Odogbolu Kingdom. Though Baba is not currently present, but he has sent his staff and a representative. Kábíyèsí o. And the Ebumawe of AGO-IWOYE, also ably represented. You're welcome, sir. Well, ladies and gentlemen, to my students at the undergraduate level, I say, greatest Nigerian student and the greatest. Thank you. And also to my postgraduate students here present and those who are unavoidably absent, I say a very big thank you. You all have been a source of inspiration for my academic achievements. I pray that you all shall never labor in vain. I especially thank Mr. Ayodele Ayola, Professor B. Abosede, Dele Olanisimi from Taisholari University of Education, Dr. A.O. Odunewu, my cooperative vice president, BTF Wakwe, Dr. Abiola Olori, Dr. S.A. Okweso, Moses Afuakwe, Wale Salami, Ayo Efegbeson, Sunday Adegbeson, Mrs. A.O. Alashe, Mr. Ikwot, and all my cooperative boards and members, I say thank you very much. And to the big family in NAEPA, the National Institute for Education Planning and Administration, I say thank you. And also the Access family. Permit me, sir, to recognize and appreciate the chairman of the OLABISI ONABANJO University Alumni Association, in person of Justice Lamina. You're welcome, sir. To the chairman and members of various committees that worked relentlessly for the success of my inaugural lecture, I pray that may God Almighty reward you abundantly. Your commitment, support, and sense of duty and achievement is highly appreciated. I pray that you shall all receive grace at your point of needs. To my children, my mommy, okay, and Bobo, they are Mary Tiwalade Adeyemi and Howells Obayemi Adeyemi. The two were named after my grandmothers and grandfathers respectively. They both serve as a source of remembrance of these two wonderful people in my life. They are my friends, my pillar of happiness and joy. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, finally, sorry, sir. Finally, sir. I'm coming, sir. Finally, sir. Yes, sir. And finally. And to crown it all, Mr. Vice Chancellor, permit me to affectionately recognize my wife, a source of inspiration and a woman of uncommon courage and strength, Mrs. Tinuola Deborah Adeyemi. I thank you for everything. Before I conclude, Mr. Vice Chancellor, please follow me on this voyage. Looking ahead to a better basic education.
Nigeria don't fight. Nigeria don't good again. Jaga jaga. Nigeria.
Ẹ wo àmọ́ ìbò sọ lọ́jọ́ ti wà máa sọ Yorùbá. Ẹ wo gbogbo nǹkan ṣẹlẹ̀ ń lu yìí lọ́jọ́ ti wà.
Nigeria go survive. I say if them drink the oil, no matter how them try, Nigeria go survive. Our roots them strong for ground, ancestors no go gree, Nigeria go survive. The God of thunder and lightning, unite and shield
Vice-Chancellor, sir. This is the end of my lecture. Thank you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen.
To be the best, number one and nothing less. Lead me to my destiny. I have waited patiently. I have vision, though I believe. I know I can count on me. So stand up for the champions, for the champions. Stand up, stand up, stand up. For the champions, for the champions.
You may have your seats, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. You will agree with me that we have indeed had a good time listening to Professor ADEYEMI this afternoon. Once again, on behalf of the university management, I want to thank you all for taking time out to attend this 112th Inaugural Lecture. Once again, we thank our royal fathers here present and represented here. We thank you very much for coming. We wish you a safe journey back to your respective destinations. Our lords spiritual and temporal that are also here, we thank you very much for coming. We thank our distinguished guests. All of you are very important to us, and we appreciate your coming. Shortly, I'll ask the Vice-Chancellor to declare this ceremony closed. May I implore you, ladies and gentlemen, while the recession is taking place, to please stand and remain standing until the people on the high table outside the hall. Please, the wife of the inaugural lecturer will join us immediately after this recession to take some photographs. Once again, I thank you very much for coming, and we appreciate your coming to OLABISI ONABANJO University AGO-IWOYE. Thank you very much. May I now ask the Vice-Chancellor to please declare this 112th Inaugural Lecture closed. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, you all believe that Professor Aristotle, we can't say was unionist, is he an activist fighting for the younger generation to come. There's hope. I also believe in what he said. Even despite what is going on in Nigeria today, Nigeria go better. Once again, the principal officer of the university, provost, deans, professors here present, all Senate members, other university community, I invited against the inaugural lecturer of today on behalf of Senate of this great university. I hereby declare this inaugural lecture closed.
Shall we now rise as we honor the academic recession out of the hall? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Wish you all back to your various safety, just back to your various destinations.
Ọ̀nàbànjọ yunifásitì o ẹ jẹ́ ká gbé lárugẹ. Ọ̀nàbànjọ yunifásitì o ẹ jẹ́ ká gbé lárugẹ. Àjọgbé lárugẹ. Àjọgbé lárugẹ. Ohun àníláńlá mi. Ẹ bá wa gbé gbogbo ìlú lárugẹ. Àníláńlá. Ohun àníláńlá mi. Àníláńlá. Ohun àníláńlá mi. Gíga gíga làbọ́jọ́ kù. Gíga gíga làbá òòrùn. Iwájú lọ pa ẹ̀mí.